Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Knitwhim podcast. My name is Lindsay, also known as Knitwhim on Ravelry, and on my blog I am arcaneknits.blogspot.com. You can check me out there, although I don't post as often as I'd like. It is August 19th, 2013, a Monday, and I am wearing this because I have a doctor's appointment later today. I braided my hair last night. I'll just start with this story. I braided my hair last night because I'm practicing learning how to braid my hair. Because right now, in uniform, I have to wear my hair in a bun, and I hate it. I have a lot of hair, and it's very heavy. It pulls on my scalp. It hurts. I get migraines. And so the other option that you're allowed to wear in uniform is you can braid your hair and then tuck it up like this. So it's like having a bun, but the weight is distributed and it doesn't pull. So I'm practicing. Last night's braid was awesome. Today's not so much. I have like stray hairs that have already come out, and it's been less than like 15 minutes. So I'm probably gonna take it out. So when I went to shower this morning and I took my hair out of the braid that I slept in. It was just like so pretty and wavy, and it was great. I was like, oh, I want to do my blog with that hair. But I had to shower because I felt gross. And I'm wearing this. This is my Navy PT clothes because I have a medical appointment today at 11:15. I'm 98% sure that it would be fine if I went in regular clothes. But there's that slight chance that I would show up and they'd be like, oh, you're in civilian clothes and this is an official Navy appointment, so we can't see you. Come back when you're in official uniform. It's happened to me before. And I know that was just because for certain things there's rules that make them have to do that, and certain people are more stuck up and weird and they require it when it's not necessary. But it's my day off, and it's supposed to be a short, like 15-minute appointment. I don't want to stress out. I don't want to have to think about anything. So I'm just wearing this because there's no way they can say I can't wear this. So that's that. And then after the appointment, I will come back and clean my kitchen because it's a mess. I've been reading a lot about standard of living and like the work-life balance, and I definitely think that our culture as a whole needs to change, and I'm saying that from the completely selfish standpoint of I work 40 hours a week, and I come home at 5 or 5:30, and I barely have time to clean a little bit and cook dinner, and then I usually collapse and fall asleep before I have time to put the dinner dishes away. So when I do clean, it's always gross stuff that's been sitting out for a day and a half because I don't get to clean it until the next night when I get home from work. And I get up at 4:30, I go to bed at 8, and it's horrible. Even though I work Wednesday through Saturday, so I do have 3 days off of work, but I spend almost the entire weekend that I have off work doing all of the chores that I didn't do during the week, and it's exhausting. And I'm trying to pace myself. Like I'll clean for an hour, like I did an hour of laundry today, and then I can watch knitting podcasts while I do laundry, so that's cool. Then I knit for an hour, and then I cleaned something else for an hour, and then I showered, and now I'm doing this. And then I'll go to my appointment and come back and do the kitchen because it's going to be fun. So that's that. I have at least another 3 years that I've committed to staying in the Navy, and then after that we'll see what happens. But definitely I will be keeping that in mind in the future for future jobs. It's definitely, I feel like 40 hours a week is standard, and that's what most people work. And that's considered normal and what you're supposed to do. And I've only been doing it for a short period of time, and I think it's crazy, and I think it's crap. And honestly, I feel like there's a better way to do things, and that if I look around and work hard enough, I can find a better way to do things, because this is crazy. And my husband works Monday to Friday, so we only have one day, Sunday, where we both have off. So we only get to see each other in a happy, relaxed environment one day a week, and the rest of the week it's just we carpool, so we see each other in the car to and from work, and neither of those encounters are very pleasant because it's 4 a.m., don't want to go to work, 5:30, work sucked. So, not exactly fun. Anyway, I don't know where that came from. That's where I am right now. It's because I just got finished watching Knitwhim Farm, and I love Joanna Springs to death, but she quit her job to work on a farm, and so her whole life is living on a farm and doing her own thing, farming, and I'm super jealous. I really, really want to do that, but that's not a possibility for me right now, so I love you, Joanna. Anyway, works in progress. I have been making progress on my shawl, damask shawl. It's 700 yards of DK weight. The yarn is Broco Vintage DK. It's a wool acrylic blend. I didn't really have like a super tight deadline because, it's non-deadline knitting, but because of stuff that's happening in September, which I'll talk about later, I kind of want to prove to myself that I can finish this in 3 months. In order to do that, I have to finish it by the end of September. And I'm not even halfway done yet. I'm declaring row 70 to be the halfway point. It's like 140 something rows total, but it's not really technically the halfway point stitch count wise because cast on 333 stitches and steadily decrease, and so like now I'm at 260 stitches or something, and you lose like 3 or 4 stitches every row depending on the row. So really halfway is probably sooner than that. That's my phone reminding me that I have an appointment, because I was afraid I would forget, because I actually did forget until like 3 p.m. yesterday. I was like, Monday, I don't have to do anything except that appointment that I have. So I set my alarm for today so I wouldn't forget. Anyway, what was I talking about? Right. So I'm having less stitches, so the rows are getting shorter and shorter, so they're going faster. Last week I put a stitch marker on the row that I was currently knitting at the time so you could see visually how much progress I made, because if I hold it like this, does it look any different from last time? No, it doesn't. It looks exactly the same. But I've actually made quite a bit of progress, as you can see. And keep in mind that this is like over 260 plus stitches. Where is it? Okay, so you can see I've knit all of this from the stitch marker up since the last time you saw me. And I think I might have complained to you in the past about how I used to be able to knit all day long at work, and then my work situation changed and I was no longer able to do that. But Saturdays are a little different, and so I decided to see if I could get away with knitting on Saturday, this past Saturday, and I totally did. So I knit 6 whole rows on Saturday, which is sadly the bulk of the progress that you're seeing here. I do want to make a comment. I'm enjoying this shawl. It's way more complicated than most of the lace that I've knit in the past. There's more stuff going on in each row, and I'm loving the shawl. I think it's a great pattern. I'll probably end up recommending it to people, but I'm not really thrilled with the way it's written. The chart is super tiny, and I know that there are probably technical computer ways to like enlarge it so that I can see it, but it's too small for me to read, and so I'm knitting off the written instructions even though I prefer charts. Also, the designer uses some weird stitches that aren't standard stitches for lace, which is fine, but she also has these weird abbreviations for them that aren't standard. You have to look them up because they're not the abbreviation that's normal. She uses different symbols in the charted stuff than what it doesn't really make sense to me why those symbols mean those things for the fancy stitches that aren't as common. Like she has one that's slip one, knit one, yarn over, knit one, but you're not slipping the next stitch, and I thought it was like knit one, yarn over, knit one into a stitch. It's not. you're slipping the third stitch on the left needle over 2 stitches and dropping it off. Then you're knitting a stitch, yarning over, and knitting a stitch, which, I don't know, it didn't seem intuitive or obvious, and I've been knitting a lot of lace. So it's not hard, a beginner could do it, but it's written in a way that I don't like. But I'm still enjoying knitting it, and yeah, I'm on row 41, and hopefully my goal is to hit row 70 by the end of this month, so that I can like have smooth sailing in September, and finish in 3 months. Because of nerd orders, that's why. Next work in progress, what else do I have going? Oh, the Renegade mitts, it's a made up pattern that my sister made up. I haven't worked on this in a super long time because she had not made up written instructions for a thumb gusset, and I'm lazy and didn't want to figure out a thumb gusset, so I put it away and haven't worked on it. But as of this morning, I'm working on it again. I pulled out the Sleek It mitt pattern. Does this ever happen to you? You managed to tie a knot in your cable while doing magic loop? This is the first time this has happened to me. I pulled out the written instructions for the Sleek It mitts, which, as you recall, I finished when I showed you in the last episode. I printed the instructions out. They were laying around on the floor. So I'm using the thumb gusset for that pattern for this. And so I'm now 4 rows into the thumb gusset, and I think I'll probably finish this mitt and start on the next one probably by the end of this week. So, which is important because I want the leftover yarn for another project that I'm planning to start in October. So, but I want the leftover yarn. I need it. So that's that work in progress. My other work in progress is spinning. Lots of spinning. It's kind of a pain. My spinning wheel is right there. I've been spinning this pound of domestic wool, and I've spun 3 bobbins so far, which is about 12 ounces. The first bobbin was a little less, so technically wasn't a whole 12. But I'm saying I spun 12 ounces so far of my pound. The first bobbin was like super inconsistent, and I was on purposely changing the whirl size and messing around with stuff, and like on purposely being inconsistent, and I chain plied that. And let me just say real quick that I've chain plying is the only type of 3-ply I've ever done, and I've done all of my previous chain plying on a drop spindle, and I thought it was super easy and not difficult, but chain plying on my wheel for the first time was really hard. The yarn kept spinning on itself out of control and like sucking in weirdly, and I don't know, the combination of having to pull, there are weird trucks driving past my house, pull the yarn off the bobbin and feed it into the orifice and pedal, and it was hard, but hopefully it'll be easier next time I do it. Anyway, all that to say, I chain plied the first bobbin and I've spun 2 more bobbins, and here they are. The hardest part of spinning so far, obviously, spinning consistently and consistently spinning the size ply that you want is difficult, and I'm not doing that yet, but it's not my goal to be perfect right away. So the other hardest part about spinning right now is the bobbins. I'm still having trouble winding the yarn evenly on the bobbin, because you have to do that manually. At some point I'll show you, well, I can show you now. Or maybe not. This is an empty bobbin. It's all prepped for my plying the two bobbins together. You have to manually control where on the bobbin the yarn is going to wind on by which hook the yarn is on. So if the yarn is wrapped around this hook, it's going to wind on here. And then once it's wound on a certain amount, you have to stop spinning and move the yarn off that hook, and then it'll start winding on a little bit over here. And you have to keep doing that. And I still haven't figured out the best method. Obviously, you don't want to spin it all here first until it gets to the top and then go over. You want to sort of like do a layer and then do another layer. I believe that's correct. I've read a lot about spinning, but I don't retain much of it, and I haven't specifically looked up what's the proper way to do a bobbin now that I'm spinning. But I think you're supposed to do it a little bit at a time, because even though the wheel gives you a huge advantage in spinning, one of my least favorite things about spinning on the drop spindle is that the heavier the spindle gets from all the extra fiber on the cop, the slower it spins, and the less it spins per flick. Like you have to spin it again more frequently, and it also starts to backspin. The same is true for the wheel. It takes longer to notice, but it's still there. And once you have 3 ounces on the bobbin, you have to treadle faster to go the same speed. And I believe at the end of my last podcast, I was talking about how pleasantly surprised I was that it was easy to start the wheel in the direction that you wanted without having to touch it with your hand. Once you get 3 ounces on, that's no longer the case, and it tends to want to spin the other direction. And it's more difficult because of the weight of the bobbin. It affects the pull of the wheel. One of the things that you can do to help that is to wind it on evenly. So for this one, it wasn't horribly even. It wasn't really, really even, but it was more even. On this one, I sort of forgot what I was doing, and I don't know if you could see, I got this big bunch of fiber that came all the way up to the top, and then down here was like super, super like tiny. It was nowhere near, like it was forming like a slope like this, like little bits of yarn here, and then lots of yarn up here. And that made the wheel unhappy faster than on this one. So that's still the hardest thing for me in terms of learning how to use the wheel versus spinning on a drop spindle. The wheel is still insanely easier than the drop spindle, but it's got different things that you have to learn. So I'm letting these bobbins, I've spun two bobbins, they're 4 ounces each, and I'm letting them rest because I remember vaguely reading somewhere that you're not supposed to ply them right away. You're supposed to let them sit for some reason so that they can calm down. So I'm doing that even though I'm not sure why I'm doing it. And the individual, it's not super consistent, but it's consistent enough that I don't think it's going to end up being thick and thin. My original plan was to 3-ply it, and I think overall, if I 3-plied it, oh, you can't even see that. Like these are the 2 individual strands. This one is a little bit thinner right now, and this one's a little bit thicker, but they go back and forth so it evens out on the bobbin. I don't know what weight that's going to be, but to me that looks like it might be a DK weight, so it might overall be a worsted weight after I wash it. So I'm not going to 3-ply it, partially because I like the thinner yarn, but also because I'm committed to doing a spin-along in September, and I want to have all my bobbins empty for that, to spin something different than this. And I don't think I'm going to have time to spin another 4 ounces in the next 2 weeks. Just because of what I said before, I'm super busy, and I timed myself spinning this, and for the first bobbin, I was spinning like 1 ounce in like a half hour, 45 minutes. But I was spinning I was spinning a lot thicker without any kind of intention or purpose. And now that I'm thinking about what I'm doing and spinning significantly thinner, it's taking me about 2.5 hours for 1 ounce. So it would take me like 10 hours to do my last 4 ounces. And I'm sure I could scrounge up that time. I tend to spin for about 30 minutes in the morning before work, and then about 30 minutes to an hour when I get home from work while dinner is cooking, because I like to cook things that you stick in the oven and then leave for an hour so that I don't have to do a whole lot. But I don't want the stress, and I'm trying to finish my shawl, or at least get my shawl to the halfway point before the beginning of September. So I'm just going to put that last 4 ounces of the pound on hold until after the spin along. So yeah, that's my spinning progress. My only finished object is the aforementioned, I'm calling it 4 ounces, but it's really more like 3 ounces. This is my first bobbin on the wheel. And you can see that this is true like thick and thin. I don't think my current project is going to be this obviously, but you can see like this is super bulky. This is bulky. I've got some like bits over here, like this is probably worsted weight, and then I have like a really strange, like thin sections, like this random bit right there that's thinner than everything else. But it's nice, it's bouncy. I'm hoping, so now I'm going to do 2-ply on that bobbin. When I finally do the last 4 ounces of my pound, I'm going to chain ply it, and it'll probably be a little bit more consistent than this, but it'll also still be sort of the same weight, hopefully. That's my goal. And so then this is only 6 to 8 ounces. So I'm hoping to have, at the end of my project, enough worsted bulky weight to do a hat with. And so this won't be like a sad 68 yard. It's 3 ounces, 68 yards of worsted to super bulky. Did I say that? I know I'm talking like super fast and crazy, and I'm all. Like I said, I'm on day 2 of my 3-day weekend, and I want to do everything because I can't do anything during the rest of the week when I'm at work. And so I'm like trying to squeeze all of the things I want to do into my limited time. So yeah, and I'll open it so you can see. And I'm using like super weird acrylic yarn to tie it. And I totally tied it wrong because I was like, I remember reading how to do this. I don't need to look it up. And then I totally didn't remember and needed to look it up. So it's not tied correctly, but it's tied in 4 places, which is going to have to be enough. So you can see it hangs like, I was afraid that it was over spun, but it's not. I mean, there are definitely places that are too tightly twisted, but in general, it's not. It hangs right, but if I hadn't put so much twist in like this section like here, if I hadn't put so much twist in it, it would be softer and it would be nicer. But in general, it's good, and it'll make a nice hat. I'm hoping once I do the I'm still not entirely sure how to do this. Sometimes when I do it, the yarn like magically likes to spin on itself. So sometimes when I do it, it just spins on itself by itself and it's perfect. And then sometimes it doesn't spin on itself, and I'm like, I'm not sure where this is supposed to go. Aren't you supposed to just magically collapse into candy form? Okay. Whew. Sorry, I'm like crazy. This is how crazy I am. I wrote on a sticky note what I'm supposed to be talking about. Slowing down. Okay, so work in progress, shawl, spinning, finished, yarn. Okay. Frogging. I'm sure you guys, if you watched my podcast or read my blog, you know about my crochet mitts, the interim mitts that I've been working on forever, and I frogged them a gazillion times because I'm learning how to crochet, and I was having difficulty crocheting in the round without either losing or gaining an insane number of stitches. So this is where I am now. I have successfully gotten all the way up to the thumb without making any mistakes. It is beautiful and lovely, and I have accomplished my goal. But, where's the camera? See? Thumb is in progress. Beautiful, lovely. I'm not 100% sure what this yarn is, but I'm pretty sure that it's Lorna's Laces that I bought at Maryland Sheep and Wool like a zillion years ago. So it's lovely. However, I'm going to frog it, and it's going to be permanently frogged, and it is not going to become mitts. Partially because although this is a nice pattern, I'm not sure that I'm super thrilled with the way the crochet mitts feel. Like I'm knitting mittens, and I like them way better than this. But mostly because this is my mitten that's not done yet, and this is the yarn that I have left. And I got at the scale and realized that the only way to get 2 mittens out of this is if I rip back this much. I would have to pull all this out and do the thumb down here instead and make the mitt this short. Then I would have just barely enough to maybe get 2 mittens out of. And I have been frogging this a lot, and this yarn is really good yarn, and it wasn't splitty when I bought it, and it wasn't splitty after I frogged it 4 times, but I frogged it more than 4 times, and now it's starting to get a little sad. And I'm tired of knitting this pattern, of crocheting this pattern. I'm tired of it. I don't think I particularly want the end product that much. I've successfully learned all of the skills that I started this project to learn. This was a learning project more than a finished object project. So I'm done. The other reason is because there's this hat that I want to knit, and I realize now that I completely forgot what the hat is called. It's by Stacy. I love her. She mostly does crochet patterns, but she did also do this hat pattern, and it's on Knitty. Oh, I don't know why I can't remember the name of this hat. Anyway, it's a hat knit on with sock yarn, and you're supposed to use stripy sock yarn so it looks cool, but I'm just going to use leftover scraps. This is what I have so far. Some blues. This is my husband's socks, which I think is the She Bee sock yarn or something like that. And then this is my honeymoon shawl, which is something lovely that I can't remember. And then this is Dream Color Smushy. And I really want this to join the mix, and it'll be all nice and pretty. I think that's going to be lovely. I don't think that's enough for the whole hat, which is why I'm also going to finish previously mentioned mittens, and the leftover brown is going to go in there too. And maybe the green. I haven't decided if I like the green with it or not. But yeah, so it's going to be a pretty rainbow of lovely colors. And if I did the mitts, I would not have enough of the teal, the seafoam, left over to do this hat. And I actually super want this hat, and I think that the teal color like makes it, and it wouldn't be as cool without it. So I've had this pattern that I can't remember the name of on my queue since college, because she came out with the pattern when I was in college, and she actually worked at the yarn store that I went to in college. Like, she worked at my local yarn store when she came out with the pattern, which is kind of cool when you've known people in real life and then you knit their stuff. So I'm gonna frog this like right now on camera. So I've had it on my queue for a really long time, but at the time I was in college, and I didn't have a job, and I didn't have a whole lot of money, and I mostly knit out of acrylic and other cheap things, and I didn't buy sock yarn because it's like $20 for one project, and who would pay $20 for one project? That's ridiculous. And so I've had this on my queue waiting until I wasn't going to buy sock yarn for the pattern. Heavens no, that would be a waste. I was going to wait until I had enough leftover sock yarn of random colors to make the hat with. And of course, up until now, all of my leftover sock yarn has either, one, not been enough yardage, or two, been funky colors that like look horrible together. So yes, even though I'm now the kind of person who buys sock yarn, I still haven't bought it specifically for this hat, so I'm still going to knit it out of leftover sock yarn, because leftover sock yarn needs love too. So that's frogging. Where did my post-it note go? Oh, it's here. That's frogging. And I also talked about the new hat. Okay, so that's it for regular, like, show and tell knitting stuff. Now for talking about future stuff. Next month in September, I have a lot of things that I'm hoping to do. I don't know if I'll be able to do them all. I'm going to be participating in a bunch of knit-alongs and spin-alongs. The first one that I'll just talk about them in the order that I learned about them. The first one is a mystery cowl, and I've never done one before. It's a mystery lace shawl. So, you know, it's when they give you clues, and they give you clue 1 and you knit it, and then they give you clue 2 and you knit it. So it's one of those. Really cool. And I'm knitting it with some merino silk. It's my first time knitting with any kind of silk in a yarn before, so I'm super excited about that. And I'm also hoping that it also qualifies for the Fat Squirrel's new knit-along that she's starting, which is like a squirreled away knit-along, where you're supposed to knit something that's super special that you've had stashed for a while, that you were afraid to knit with, because I bought this as souvenir yarn, and that's why I could justify buying merino silk, because it was souvenir yarn. And then I was like, oh gosh, silk, I can't knit with that. It's 50% silk and 50% merino. So I've been holding on to it. It's gray, and it's pretty, and it's lace weight. So this is Yeah, it's 790 yards of lovely lace weight loveliness, and it's beautiful. So that's going to be Mystery Lace Cowl that starts in September that I'm working on. And hopefully it'll also qualify for the Fat Squirrel Cowl, and I can do both. If not, oh well, one project for one thing is cool. Then, Malia of the Yarn Raising podcast, Rhymes with Maria, is doing a spin-along starting in September, and I think it goes through October, so I think you get a lot of time to work on it, which is why it's kind of silly for me to be putting off the last 4 ounces, because I don't have to start spinning on September 1st. I could finish my pound of white and then start spinning for her spin-along, because it is 2 months long, and I don't have to start on the 1st. But that's not how my personality works. I want to be able to start on day 1, and so I will do that. And her spin-along is a new thing spin-along, and so you get, this is really cool. I haven't seen a whole lot of spin-alongs or knit-alongs where you can enter more than once, but you can enter more than once. So you get an entry in the prize drawing for every 4 ounces that you spin, and for every type of new thing that you do. So like one 4-ounce project could possibly give you 3 entries if it's a new fiber on a new tool and a new technique. That's 3 things. Or you could just get less entries by doing less things. So I don't think I'm going to count my wheel as a new tool because I have spun practically a pound on it already, but I bought new fiber that I've never spun before because I got a bunch of fiber with the wheel, but I've spun all of it before. I spun BFL before, and I spun Merino before, and I haven't spun Shetland before, but I kind of was saving that and didn't want to spin it quite yet. And so a lot of people, like, there's a lot of stuff I haven't spun. I haven't spun Cordell, and I haven't spun Polworth, and I haven't spun, what else is there? There's an F1 that I can't think of right now. I haven't spun Targi or Targi, or I don't know how you say that. I haven't spun that. There's a lot of really common stuff that everyone spins that I haven't spun yet. And a lot of people are already posting on her group about what they're spinning, and most of them are spinning like that stuff, like really common, everyone likes it, everyone tries it stuff. But I had to be difficult, and I'm spinning something else. So I didn't think to bring it with me, but you can look it up. It's really easy. The Fleece and Fiber Source book, when I first got it, I was blown away by how many sheep had horns in the book, because I knew that sheep had horns, but you always see those cute pictures of like the baby sheep with the stumpy little horns, or like also like the really curly fluffy sheep with the spirally, like the rams. Like that's what I was thinking with sheep. But a lot of sheep have like big horns, and they look like goats or like reindeer or something, like huge horns. And my favorite of all the sheep is this sheep that has 4 horns, and I can't pronounce it. Max, M-A-N-X, Longton or Lochton or something crazy. It's not pronounced the way it's spelled, and I don't know. I don't remember how to pronounce it. But you can try to read it yourself because it's on this wonderful tag. I got this from Gnome Spun, which, how cool is that? It's the sheep with 4 horns, and it's my absolute favorite sheep. No joke, because it looks awesome. And I definitely have always wanted to spin that. And it's prices on there. I've always wanted to spin that, and so I got it. And this is 8 ounces, and it's not as soft as the white domestic that I'm spinning, but it's super squishy, super squishy. And I want this to be like a squishy hat so badly. So I'm definitely going to try. It counts as a new fiber because obviously I've never spun this. I mean, how many people can say they've spun the fleece of a 4-horn sheep? Not many. So I've never spun this before, and I'm also going to honestly, really, truly, for sure this time, do a 3-ply with it. I know I said I was going to 3-ply the last thing, and I didn't, but this time I will. The only 3-plies I've ever done have been chain plied. So I'm going to try to do a normal traditional 3-ply with this. And it's 8 ounces, and so if my horrible math calculations are correct, that means I should do like 2.6 ounces per bobbin and then ply them together. So that's what I'm going to do, and hopefully I'll get a worsted suitable to knit hat with weight out of it. I'm not really worried about yardage because it's 8 ounces, and when I spun and chain plied my 5 ounces of BFL that I got for my birthday last year, I got enough to knit a hat out of. So, and that was 5 ounces. So this is 8 ounces. I should totally have enough to knit a hat out of this. That's like a whole 3 extra ounces. I'll be fine. So I'm super excited about this. This is going to be the first thing I spin. And so it's, I don't know, she said you got an entry for every 4 ounces. This is 8 ounces, and it's both a new fiber and a new plying technique for me that I've never done successfully. So I don't know how many entries that counts as. So yeah, and it's 2 months long. I don't think it's going to take me all 2 months to do this. So I might still do the Shetland afterwards. It's just because I've always, you know, you have that fantasy of doing lace weight Shetland. Am I the only person who has that fantasy? I'm definitely not there yet. But that's silly. I should just spin it and then buy more Shetland for lace weight later. So that's my plans that way. So that's 2 cows. The mystery cow, which hopefully will count as the fat squirrel it away cow, and then the spin along. But if my mystery cow doesn't count, or if I have more free time than I think I will, I also have this. This is BFL. I think it's from Misty Acre Farms. I'm not entirely sure. I'll put it in show notes later. This is the remainder of the fiber club that I got for my birthday last year for my sister. Thank you. I've been saving it because I wanted to spin it on my wheel. I spun the other stuff on my drop spindle, and she did buy this as my birthday present because at the time I thought I was going to get my wheel that year. And I didn't. It's now a year later, and I've got my wheel. So I saved it to spin on my wheel, and that's what I'm going to do. So it definitely qualifies as squirreled away special fiber that I hadn't touched. And I kind of want to enter, Fat Squirrel is doing her knit along, spin along in different categories. So to win the fiber prizes, you have to enter a spinning entry because she doesn't want to give fiber to people who don't spin, which makes sense. But I want the fiber, so I might have to spin. That's bad, right? You should never enter a group along just for the prize, right? I totally am. She always has very lovely stuff, and I never win stuff, but I keep trying anyways because I'm that person. Anyway, this is lovely. I want to see that. Lovely, beautiful. I love all these colors. Oh, and feasibly, this could also be part of, I love how all these projects could technically be parts of the other projects. This could also work for Malia's spin along because even though I've spun BFL like a gazillion times, what I plan on doing with this braid, all the BFL I've spun before, I've just spun straight and then chain plied to maintain the colors. But I think this time I'm going to completely unbraid it and split the braid down the center and spin each braid that way and then 2-ply it so that they are the same rather than chain plying it to maintain color. So I've never done that before, so that technically counts, and it's 4 ounces. We'll see. Like I said, it's taking me like 10 hours to spin 4 ounces, so 2 months and 16 ounces. I don't know how much of that I'll actually spin, but I have options. You know, I could spin whatever I feel like because this is pretty and the Shetland is gray. And it's not fall yet, but it's getting close to fall. And isn't this better to spin and fall than just like plain gray? So I might do this and not the Shetland. Whatever. Okay. All right. One more thing, this is my last thing that I'm talking about today. The last time I did a podcast, I had just gotten my wheel, and so I mostly just talked about my wheel and my fiber. But at the same time, I also had bought a drop spindle and some cotton. And I haven't worked on it a lot because, sadly, I got the drop spindle and then 3 days later my wheel came. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Wheel. I've been wanting this wheel for forever. The cotton thing is because I had this crazy idea that I wanted to try to grow my own cotton and then spin my own hand-grown cotton, because why wouldn't you want to do that? That just sounds like fun. But growing your own stuff is hard, I think. I kill all of my stuff. So that's hard. And I live in Georgia, and it's actually illegal to grow cotton without a license. From what I've read, it's not terribly, terribly hard for regular people to get a license to grow cotton, ornamental cotton, for like hobby purposes. But I'd still have to get one, which seems like a hassle. So I figured I should probably spin some cotton first to make sure I actually like spinning cotton before I go through all that trouble to grow my own. So I bought a spindle specifically for cotton because there are gazillions of different types of spindles out there. And this spindle I got from Hipstring on Etsy, Hipstrings, and she does a whole bunch of, it's some kind of plastic, and I forget what kind of plastic it is, and she has a laser etcher that she can put all these designs on. So this is the Time Traveler design, because I'm on a complete Doctor Who kit, and she calls the color of this plastic bronze, but to me it looks like transparent silver to me. But anyway, if you want this color, I think she calls it bronze, on Etsy. And this is the minstrel size. She has a whole bunch of sizes. This is the second to last smallest, so there's one that's smaller than this. And it's recommended for spinning cotton. And this is some cotton in the charcoal. She started to do cotton, and I got the sampler. So I got 4 1-ounce samples of 4 different colors. So that's the charcoal. And I also have a brown, a cream, and a white. I don't know if you can see that, to spin. And because it's a drop spindle, it takes so much longer to spin this than the cotton. And this is a supported spindle. I keep saying it's a drop spindle, but it's not. It's a supported spindle. And so I stole this bowl from my husband because half of having a supported spindle is having cool accessories. So I'm having trouble with the camera again. There you go. Directionally challenged. So you have the bowl. Maybe I'll tilt it so you can see. You still can't really see. Well, it sits in the bowl like that. And then I have to keep these little caps on because the tips of this spindle are so freakishly pointy that you will make yourself bleed if you get scraped by them. So then when I first started spinning with drop spindles, I found them to be extremely difficult and painful, but they definitely take longer than a spinning wheel, but they're still pleasant to use once you know how to use them. And like, just the difference for me between having not had a wheel and then after only spinning on my wheel for literally half an hour, I had like tried to do this spindle with the cotton and I couldn't do it. And like, that's what my spinning looked like the whole time, was this. I couldn't control both the spindle and the drafting at the same time, and it was just frustrating. And you can't see that I'm just pulling it way out here and then spinning. It was frustrating, and I couldn't draft with one hand because you have to have a hand on the spindle holding it and then just draft one-handed. That's just sort of how this works. And now I'm spinning it on. And then after only half an hour on my wheel, I was suddenly magically able to draft one-handed. And it's still not like great. I haven't made as much progress on this, again, because I'm spinning on my wheel, but you can see how I still have like those nubby bits that are like bulges, and then the rest of it is thinner. And that just comes from time, like I won't be doing that forever. I just need more time practicing with it, and then I will be able to get pretty yarn out of it. And also the cotton is super soft. Up until now, the only cotton that I've knit with is that Lilies and Cream or Sugars and Cream, whatever that cotton is that they sell at Michael's and other places like that, designed specifically for making washcloths and dish towels and stuff with, and that stuff is not soft and it's not pleasant to work with. And I don't know why, always imagined that spinning cotton would be like spinning that for some reason, and this stuff is super soft. I mean, it's great. So I'm hoping, I don't know if I'll actually be able to knit anything from this, just because it's only 1 ounce of each color and 8 ounces total, and it's going to be completely thick and thin, but I don't know, maybe I'll be able to knit something. And then I have a lot of this, most of it once I started is this thin stuff. So that'll be, if I just 2-ply it, that'll be like worsted weight or DK. I'm not like super good at telling just by looking at the single what weight it's going to be 2-plied yet. There's a cool little chart that you can find if you Google wraps per inch that tells you like the wraps per inch of a single. So in theory, you could measure the wraps per inch of your single and know roughly what your 2-ply is going to be. But I haven't gotten to that point yet where I can just look at it and be like, I know what this is going to turn out to be. Rambling. This is what the drafting looks like. And I'm doing in drafts, so I spin the spindle I spin the spindle first to put some twist into what's already there, and then I stop spinning and I draft, and I just watch the twist go up, and then when the twist stops going up, I spin some more to put twist in the stuff that I drafted that didn't get anything, and then I draft some more, and you can just watch the twist going up what you're pulling out, and then you put more twist in it once it stops. And the real trick is just to draft until the twist stops following you, and then to stop drafting. Anyway, we're rapidly approaching an hour for this episode. I'm going to try to cut it down a little. But yeah, if you stuck it out this long, what a trooper. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you keep coming back and that you comment and say something interesting. I don't know if you know, but YouTube has this really awesome feature called video commenting, where you can film yourself and then you comment with the video. That would be neat. I think people should try that. I don't think people do that as much as they should on the interwebs. I think video comments would be cool. Just saying, for future reference if you ever feel the need. Otherwise, I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.